The other day in my video, I called XRP a payment token, and someone in my comments brought up the point that Ripple may pivot away from payments, and I think they're making reference to a video Crypto Eddie put up the other day. And for sure, Ripple as a business is going to pivot into a lot of different areas of blockchain, some disassociated even with XRP, things like custody and trading and things of that nature. And as a company, you want diverse businesses and cash flows and things of that nature as you build out your business to its fullest capability. It's just common sense. Further, the XRP Ledger, it has a lot of capability beyond just sending payments. You have the built-in decentralized exchange. You have the ability to basically tokenize any asset. The ledger is built to send and trade any kind of value. But I'll tell you this, even if Ripple went away or they decided not to do payments anymore, XRP, I think, fills that vision, that Genesis vision of cryptocurrencies, a purely peer-to-peer version of electronic cash that would allow online payments and do so without an intermediary. Stablecoins don't fill that void, right? Because you don't need permission to send a payment, but you do have an intermediary that's holding the value that's backing that token. It has no intrinsic value in a Tether or USDC unless you have that dollar in the bank account. And so when we look at the litany of cryptocurrencies that are finely tuned for that purpose, that Genesis problem, I think XRP set up very well. I think its consensus algorithm is novel compared to proof of work and proof of stake systems. And that XRP on its own accord, because of those valuation metrics, will have long-term and sustainable value in building. David had a great post today, and he was kind of grappling with this idea of the Hoe Test. He's kind of saying, look, we could have artwork, baseball cards, all these different things. Because those powers are so broad, you could try to claim those things are security, but we don't. And David said the following: so why do we need special laws for securities? He says it's primarily because security fraud can be hard to detect and punish. If I promise you profits from a business, but I just tell you there's no profits, how would you show otherwise? So we have to have special rules for this class of asset. So I think personally, if we take a step back, cryptocurrencies are clearly not a stock, a bond, or even a security offering. There's no contract that's wrapping the asset. At the same time, well, it's kind of similar, isn't it? People can tell you, we're building this, or we're doing that, or we have this partner, and you have no way to know if any of this is true. And I think as we build out this asset class, clearly there's going to be a need for finely tailored laws. Securities laws don't really fit because, we don't have a CEO and a president and people that are, responsible for reporting per se. This is not a business, and it's this big global decentralized system with developers all over the place and people with inside knowledge. I'm not saying it's easy, but we need some light reporting, especially for your big crypto assets. You have something that's churning a couple $100 million a day, like that should have some backing or substance that investors could look at and say, all right, here are the statements that I can rely on. These assets that are being sold, they very well may be pure commodities, but we need a little additional info. And remember, securities are commodities too. Everything's a commodity. Security is just a class of commodity that requires, at least in the US, some additional reporting, a lot of additional reporting. We don't want to go that far, but we need a scaled back system here. People need to think about this logically and say, how do we encourage entrepreneurs? How do we protect investors so it's a fair game and let this space really grow in a big way? And I think if we get smart laws, it will only incentivize people to invest with confidence. And the real problem is the SEC is they make it up as they go along, and so no one knows what to do. Ethereum's fine for unknown reasons, and some other cryptocurrency is named as security, and you can't tell the difference between the two. That's a major problem. They got to fix this up. Now, I understand it's not the SEC's job. That's the job of Congress. But until then, there needs to be some stopgap. Jay Clayton himself, believe it or not, had a great idea. He said, why don't we have some sort of regulated exchange where you can trade on there? And there are some rules to the road here, but we just wait until Congress passes those eventual laws. That way entrepreneurs, can build out their systems and investors can participate. And at least there's some protection there. But let's just not make it up as we go and try to enforce rules that don't exist, because then everyone loses. Entrepreneurs, investors, and regulators themselves. They keep getting embarrassed in court because they're overstepping their boundaries. Look at that. Even Jay Clayton had a good idea. Speaking of Satan's lair, the SEC is claiming that they're going to find some FTX-style fraud at Binance.us. But they've been looking and looking and looking, and it ain't there. And by the way, for all of Binance's faults, they've had to unwind some really big positions. No investors were harmed. That's the big thing. They're not like FTX because no one got rugged. Everyone got paid, to date at least. Binance.us is unwinding, so what's really the point of this treasure hunt, especially if everyone gets paid back? Obviously, it's not an FTX type of situation. If they can unwind that exchange, everyone gets paid and they just exit the market. It's a ridiculous fishing expedition, and I think the judge is losing his patience. He said, go work it out with Binance. There's limits here where I got to assume it's not FTX because, there's no missing money. If I had to guess what's going to happen here, Binance has a new CEO. I think they're going to clean up the business, make sure it's compliant with all sorts of, money transfer laws and monitoring. And of course, they're going to have the U.S.'s beak in their business for the next few years. But if I had to guess, they'll get this thing up and running in a compliant manner. And I bet you they eventually go public. And I wouldn't rule out the U.S. at some later point in time. But if not, Hong Kong, UK, somewhere else. And I bet they recoup that $4 billion they paid in fines and then a whole bunch more. If they take this opportunity in a serious manner to really ensure, Binance is compliant with global laws, they still could do quite well. I want to bring up one point. I had made a video about Charles Hoskinson and what I think is the hypocrisy of him now getting mad about unfair regulations. We've been talking about this. What I want to put out there is don't let this kind of stuff bleed over into your investment opportunities. Take a look at Cardano on its own. There's a lot of global builders there. Is it a project you like? If not, fine. There's lots of wonderful blockchains out there you can invest in. But you're best off not to get caught up in the drama and let that affect the way you invest. Lastly, Vitalik, he's warning that AI may potentially surpass humanity. And we need to be careful. Thanks a lot, Captain Obvious. But the problem is, how do you be careful? If Microsoft, if they let their foot off the gas pedal, Google's going to run them over. The U.S. is like, hey, no more AI. China's going to go full speed ahead and they'll pass us up. This is one of those situations, unfortunately, where we probably can't be as careful as we should be. If I had to guess, it's not going to be quite, something out of a science fiction model where the computers take over. It's going to be disruptive. We're going to have to move quick. It's going to mess with the job market and a lot of different things. But at the end of the day, we'll get through this, and this will be a transformative technology, just like blockchain and the internet and everything else. Let me know what you think down below. And as always, please like, please subscribe. The revolution will be televised right here on Jungle Link.